As we get ready to drive out to the job site, you obviously want to make sure that you're familiarized with all the controls. We're going to start from the back end. Very simple, your 5-volt USB. We can plug anything we need to into that, whether that be your phone, whether that be the radio that you're using to communicate with the other employees, etc. We do have a master battery switch located in this cab. This is good on pretty much any machines now, that when you're done working for the day, you go ahead and turn that off. There's a lot of computers on the machines these days. They'll continue to run at a low voltage, and this just makes sure that anytime you go to get back into the machine, you can turn this on and your machine's going to crank up and start. You're going to notice that we do have our heater switch here if we're going out to sweep on a cold day. Right next to that, we have our air conditioning. Same thing on a hot day, turn it on or off. The top position is actually your fan speed, so whether I'm running the heat or the AC, I can run off, low, medium, or high. This one's a little more critical to pay attention to. This is going to be for forced air in or pressurized cab, and right now the position that this is in is for a pressurized cab. If I'm driving out to the job site and I want to get fresh air up into the cab, it's not a bad thing to go ahead and turn the knob, pull that fresh air into the cab. But I do recommend that anytime you are going out to do any actual sweeping, when you know you're going to be kicking up dust, that we go ahead and we turn the knob so that we're recirculating the air within, and we're keeping the cab cleaner and pressurized. This will also help with the cabin air filter up front and the ability of keeping that a bit cleaner. As we move forward, you do have your water tank gauge level, okay? And right below that is actually a warning light. So this is going to tell me in two different ways if I've got a full water tank or if I'm getting low. They are run dry pumps, so if this light does turn on, there's a possibility that your pumps will turn off on their own. You're not going to damage anything. It'll kill them. Go fill up with water, because in a regenerative air sweeper, I should be operating with water at all times. The switch down below is the switch that turns my water pumps on and off. Okay? Moving this direction again, this machine has the ability to drive down the road at up to 65 miles per hour. But if I'm going to be in a hilly application, I have a 2-speed rear axle in here. So with the machine in park, I can actually switch between high and low rear axle. In most instances on flat surfaces, you're going to notice that you can operate with this in high at almost all times. Up above that, labeled suction fan speed. We're turning this fan, it's a direct drive fan turning hydraulically. So in conjunction with bringing my engine speed up to an operating speed of 17 or 1800 RPM, I can actually control the flow to the fan. I would encourage you, and we have a separate gauge for your fan speed control, that in typical operation go out and operate at about a 2100 RPM fan speed, but you do have the ability to kick that all the way up to the highest position of 2800 RPM if you're in conditions that are very heavy. Forward of that, you see a switch. It says open and close. It's labeled hood nozzle. To the front of this hood, you have 2 rubber curtains. If I am going out and I'm going to do typical sweeping, I want a good pressurized hood, I'm moving rock and gravel and grime, I'm going to keep that hood nozzle closed so that that hood stays pressurized. If I'm going to get into leaves and I need those curtains to be able to be a bit more pliable and fold, I can go ahead and hit open. And when I open that, there's a steel hook that will physically move and raise that curtain below to help break that seal, depressurize the hood, and allow those lighter materials like leaves, straw, and litter to get underneath the hood so that you can vacuum that up. But again, in typical sweeping conditions, I'm going to keep that closed at all times and keep that hood pressurized. I've got my shifter. Anytime that this shifter is in park, your park brake is engaged. Anytime I'm going to start driving, whether it be reverse, low, or high, I'm going to pull the trigger up. I'm going to move. I'm going to rattle to make sure it's locked into gear, and then I'm going to drive. Obviously, my top travel speeds to get to and from would be in high. Anytime that I'm sweeping, that shifter is going to be in low. If you ever find yourself in between positions and you're hitting the acceleration pedal, you're wondering why the machine isn't moving, it's simply because you are not locked into gear. The switch forward of that is going to be a travel and sweep switch. We have this switch on here because when I am going to actually travel out to the job site and I want to reach a speed of anywhere up to 40, 50, 60 miles per hour in my 4-wheel street sweeper, I want it in travel. I control the entire engine speed off of the acceleration pedal. When it's time to go sweep and I need to lock that engine speed into the working position or working RPM, if I want to keep a set 1700 RPM, I can actually flip that switch to the sweep mode. And what this does is it actually separates the speed that the engine is operating at from the pressure that I apply to the acceleration pedal. I can make this machine move without watching my engine tach increase or decrease, which keeps all of my broom functions operating at a steady speed. So anytime that I am out sweeping, I should always have this switch in sweep mode. When I'm done sweeping, then I would switch back to travel and drive to the next job location or drive back to the shop. While in sweep mode, this switch is what controls my engine speed up and down function. Whenever this switch is in travel, it's all done off of the pedal. This switch does nothing. Once I go to sweep mode, that's what activates my engine RPM fast or engine RPM slow switch. Moving forward, you're going to see that we have an engine air filter restriction indicator. Keep an eye on that. We always want to make sure that that needle's in green, or we're going to go ahead and we're going to change our air cleaner. Below that, you're going to notice a switch that says hopper, rear, or front. This sweeper is equipped with a rear switch back in the fender by the water compartment that would allow me during cleaning to stand at the rear of the machine and raise and lower the hopper without having to go back and forth to the cab. Below this, we have a hopper raise and lower switch. Anytime that I'm going to use this switch and raise and lower the hopper from within the cab, the switch above it must be to front in order for this switch to activate. If I'm in the rear position, this switch will do nothing. As we get into the sweep functions, you'll notice this entire column is right gutter broom. This entire column is left gutter broom. My suction fan and hood are tied into the same switch, which is simply an on or off. And then the switch next to this is the ergo switch. The ergo switch acts as a master on and off switch. So if I'm ready to go out and I'm ready to do my sweeping, the first thing that I can do is I can lower my right broom, lower my left broom, turn on my fan, and lower the hood. And as soon as I hit this ergo on, all sweep gear will lower into position, and I'll be doing the job. If I get to a red light, I get to railroad tracks, something where I just need to stop the sweeping for a short period of time, I can simply turn the ergo switch off, and all gear will lift. Once I get through whatever the reason is that I had to lift that gear for that short moment of time and I want to reactivate everything, I can simply hit one switch back on and everything will lower into position and I can continue sweeping. One thing that you do need to keep in mind is if the operator is out and he hits break time or he hits lunchtime and he goes back to the shop and he turns the ignition off in the sweeper, anytime any of these switches are on or activated after the ignition has been shut off, the engine will not turn back on. That is the one and only time that I do need to go back and I need to make sure that all those switches are reset into their off positions. That way I can crank the ignition back on and start the sweeper again. You're going to notice on the left gutter broom and on the right gutter broom that we have pressure potentiometers. As I increase those or increase the voltage reading on that gauge, that will determine how heavy or light the pressure is on those side brooms when I operate. The switch in the middle is going to be gutter broom work lights. So it's just simply if I'm out sweeping in the evening, I can turn lights on down at the gutter brooms that will shine on the road for better visibility. The dial up above is going to be for gutter broom speed control. And what this does is without actually increasing or decreasing the speed of the engine RPM, I can simply turn this switch on. It acts as a flow control valve, and I can speed up and slow down the rotation of those side brooms just in case I'm in an application where I'm throwing material too far across the machine, the front of the machine, underneath the machine, whatever the case may be. Anytime I want those to go back to a default speed, I can just simply turn that switch off. Very important when operating a regenerative air machine, we need to know when to pressurize or depressurize that hood. And again, the hood is equipped with rubber curtains off the front. The lever here is connected to our air bleed off door. When this is in the closed position, that means that the plate at the air bleed off is containing all of the airflow within the hood and pressurizing that hood to a maximum point. This is best when used to move heavy debris from left to right to pick it up on a regenerative air sweeper. The issue that can occur if you're going out to pick up lighter debris like leaves and litter is that the rubber curtains, while that hood is under pressure, those rubber curtains are stiff and can actually plow material. So in this case, with the fan turned off, because the hood would be under pressure if the fan was on, so always remember, with the fan off, that's when I can adjust this lever to slowly crack the door open and depressurize that hood at a 25%, a 50%, a 75%, or a 100% level. If I want those rubber curtains in the front to be as pliable as possible, and I'm going out to pick up something like leaves, I want to depressurize that hood entirely. That is when I would fully open my air bleed off door. There may be instances when I'm out doing a different type of application where you get a combination of maybe leaves and rock and gravel, but not real thick layers of light material, that instead of fully opening or fully closing that door to pressurize or depressurize that hood, you can find a middle point. The majority of your sweeping, if not in leaves or lighter debris, will be in a 25% closed or an all entirely closed position. The last switch that we have up front is simply a beacon light on the cab, and that's just safety lighting, should be on at all times. Whenever I'm out doing any kind of sweeping, I want to be as visible as possible to oncoming traffic and traffic that's coming up behind me.